This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, everybody, let's call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is that we approve the minutes of November 24th. So can we have, I assume you all read the minutes, maybe a long time ago. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes? Okay,
I'll
Teresa.
make a motion, Teresa.
I second. Carolina, second.
Carolina, okay, are there any corrections or changes? I don't hear any, okay. So I'm going to say let's have a vote. All those in favor of the minutes of November 24th, say aye.
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 Anybody have any, are there any noes or abstentions? Okay, I think that we can say it was unanimous, Megan. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is that we look at the Board of Ed budget process and the protocols. And I wanted to let you know that one of our members suggested that I reach out to Frank Kemp, who is the head of TGSNA, which is Town Government Structure and Administration. And I did have a little bit of email exchange with him. He doesn't think he's the right person, but he in turn contacted the town council. So what I thought we would do is if we have questions about this, if we put our questions together and then forward the questions to Wayne Fox, it might give a little more structure to the kind of information that he gives us. I don't think it's worth it to have him join our meeting until we kind of hone in on exactly what we're concerned about here. So just wanted to let you know that I did follow up on the suggestion that someone made. Okay, would anyone like to, I could actually talk about the budget process and how the protocols work, if you would like me to do that, or someone else can do it, someone else who has had experience.
I mean, you could do it, Clara. I think we've all
We've all done this? Okay. Well, I know
I know we have new people on it. So yeah, I think it is good to explain it to them, but yeah.
Okay. So they're, just for the benefit of a review and for everybody. So the Board of Ed has started their budget process, and one of the first things that happens is that the superintendent gives the Board of Ed some fairly basic ideas about things that he might consider initiatives. And they have done that. There are a few things, if you have listened to the meetings, there are a few things that they have talked about. Some involve exchanges with other towns for diversity issues. Some involve a teacher in residence. These are kinds of big ideas out there that may or may not appear in the budget. And meanwhile, he has very likely asked department heads to bring him, their budget ideas for the year, and he will then start honing the process from his point of view. So after that, the board will, in January, have a day-long presentation of the entire budget, go through all the RCs, which are responsibility centers. And in a normal year, we would have had a chance to meet them in person on a Saturday and have our questions heard in each RC. I'm not sure how they're going to do that this year because of COVID and the need to not meet in person. So anyway, that tells you that's the kickoff, which I think is on January 9th. And I have forwarded you the budget calendar. So as many of those meetings that you could make, beginning with the one on January 9th, I think it is, the Saturday, that would be very informative for you. Also at that time, or perhaps maybe even before, they will send a budget booklet to everybody. And it's a huge thing where you can, I don't know, many people have seen it. All the details are there, and they're going to examine it line by line. And at that point, the Board of Ed is looking at the superintendent's budget, and that's kind of a matter of semantics. The budget is the superintendent's. And after a long process of several weeks, the Board of Ed will vote on the budget, probably around middle of February, and the Board of Ed will then say that the budget is theirs. And they will take the budget through all the town boards. Someone was asking about what's the hierarchy. They will take the budget through all the town boards, the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen, and answer questions about it from that point of view. After this happens, the Board of Ed will then, defend the parts of the budget that there are questions about. They may be asked to lower the budget, and the budget will then go to the RTM after that for a vote in May. So that's kind of an overview. The other thing to know is that while we can be influential about programs to some extent, only the Board of Ed can address the line items in the budget. So if we say we think too much money is being spent on football and we would like you to make a change there, we do not have the authority to insist that they do that. The Board of Finance can lower the budget by a certain amount of money, but neither can they lower a particular line item. The Board of Finance does have authority over the capital budget and can make changes in the capital budget. Okay, so that is pretty much the, in a nutshell, who would like to add to what I have said. Okay.
Yeah, Clara, can I just quickly say something? The Board of Ed actually doesn't present to the Board of Selectmen. It's to the Board of Finance, but not to the Board of Selectmen. So yeah, the hierarchy is it's the superintendent's budget, then it becomes the Board of Ed budget. Once the Board of Finance approves it, it becomes their budget. Once the RTM approves it, it becomes the town budget. And the same goes on the Board of Selectmen side. Theirs starts with it being the town administrator's budget, then it becomes the Board of Selectmen budget, then the Board of Finance budget, and then once the RTM approves it, it becomes the town budget.
Right.
So just that's right.
That's the way it works. And the other point is that the Board of Finance sets the mill rate, and that's what this is all about. So the mill rate is what the tax bills are what pays for all of the things in the budget. So that's what it has been for the past couple of years, and that's the schedule. And that schedule is in print, and I think I did email it to all of you. So we are, just beginning that process. One of the things that someone said the last time we met was that you all want to have have some influence over what's happening, get issues on the table that you're concerned about. So that's what I hoped we would talk about a little bit tonight, if you would like to start the discussion.
I had a question, and I just want to be clear about. I know when we first addressed this in terms of the hierarchy, and forgive me if I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think one of the points I believe Barbara had made was that if RTM does have any material influence on the budget, it would present, like the opportunity would present right at the front end of it. So where in this chronology does the RTM, get to see the budget before it's presented to the Board of Finance? Like, are we before the superintendent gives it to the BOE, or where are we on the front end before it comes full circle, and then, we give the ceremonials okay at the end of it?
Okay, well, I think where we are is that after, during the Saturday meeting, we can ask questions as the process moves along. So they'll present RC by RC, and we can get up and ask questions. After that, we're going to meet probably on January 12th, I think that's the date. Anyway, and we can then put together written questions for the Board of Ed, and we submit them to the Board of Ed at their next meeting in January, and they then are expected to answer the questions or comment on our comments. We don't only have to ask questions, we do try to make statements if that, kind of is what the issue is about. So that's where we can start having some influence. And that's where we fit in a fairly big way. The Board of Ed has said that they like to have the budget, they get caught up in this thing where they don't want to answer too many questions till the budget becomes theirs. But in the end, we present the questions to them before they've actually voted, and may influence them to some extent at that point.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Meg, just to add to that, we've had meetings in the past where Dr. Adley, other members of the administration, and other members of the Board of Ed have come to one of our meetings to go one-on-one with us, for us to present our questions, comments, things like that. And then I think since, I've been doing this forever, as have a lot of people, there will also be a public comment on the budget, where there will be a night where members of the public, not just us, can go up and ask questions of the Board of Ed, and that would be, or to the administration, and that would be before the Board of Ed votes as well. It's a pretty long lot of meetings process.
Fair enough. No, that's good. Thank you.
And if I can add just a little something, I think that participating in the meetings and watching all the budget meetings between the administration and the Board of Ed is super helpful, because there's many times that you have many questions and the board has questions as well that are very similar to yours, and the back and forth you kind of get a lot of answers and informed of what exactly, you know, where they're going and what they want. And that's how kind of we build, or at least that's how can I build my questions as well, is by watching what is being discussed in every of the budget meetings, and then kind of like, you know, we get together, all of us in our RTM Education Committee meetings, and discuss these budget meetings as well. So just my 2 cents.
Oh, you know what, Meg, I think you had another question that I'm not sure was answered, but as for the actual budget book and when we see the budget, the Board of Ed will actually see the budget a little bit before us, but we'll get it before that. I think it's the 8th, but I can't remember what Saturday, but it's this Saturday in January. We will get our book, and we will be able to see the budget before that big budget meeting. So you can go armed with questions that day. And I'm kind of hoping, I had suggested that maybe they do it like a webinar where we can ask our questions in the RCs, and maybe somebody from the administration asks them as they go, so that we can recreate as much of what that Saturday is normally like in person. Because the questions happen after each RC is presented.
Okay.
Teresa, I'm going to ask you a favor. My internet is fading here, so you may have to take over for a minute until I get it back on.
Okay.
So, you know, Cecil, you know what? I'm having trouble clicking on your link on my computer. Is there any help you could offer?
Which link?
The one that says global GoToMeeting join. I was trying to use my iPad and it didn't seem to work.
Can you copy the link and paste it, Clara? Can you select the whole link, then copy and then paste it in your browser?
I'll see what I can do.
I apologize, but I literally know nothing about iPads.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me see. I'll just keep trying. Okay. I still have a little bit of juice here, so we'll see. Okay. Any other comments about the Board of Ed budget?
I think we'll do the budget books on the 7th.
You think we'll get them on the 7th? Okay. Well, then I don't know exactly how they're going to do it this year. I mean, I guess they will be.
Yeah, normally we pick them up at the meeting room. I don't know how they're going to do it this year.
Okay.
I have a comment, if I can, before we get to the priorities. I wanted to, talk a little bit about the process. I mean, we walked through the process, but here's what's clear this year, at least as I understand it, right? The Board of Finance clearly stated the 2.5% is sort of the core expense, what is accepted. And if the Board of Education or administration wants to make a case, clear and compelling case, they'll be willing to go up to 3%. And here's really the issue that I raised on the email. And, that's something maybe for the council, maybe for my education, but I really don't see the role of Board of Finance as the arbiter of whether the Board of Education is making clear and compelling case for 3%. I have the highest regard for Mr. Zagrodzky and obviously his communication and his commitment to town and to the whole Board of Finance, but they have not been, these people, I don't think have been elected, these 7 people haven't been elected to double as education specialists to judge whether there is a clear and compelling case. And they, on December 8th, day after the state of town address, Mr. Zagrodzky addressed the Board of Education, and he was sort of suggesting if there is some kind of program that they don't view, as compelling, they'll return it, even though they cannot judge whether the program actually eventually will be okayed or not, and whether money is going to be taken from somewhere else. I just don't think this to run it efficiently. Now, I know this is a bigger discussion, and we're going to get to the priorities that all of us had for this budget cycle. But I think Board of Finance needs to judge whether 2.5 is acceptable or not only on the history and the contractual commitment, but also on tax burden to the whole town, right? Our taxes as a percentage of our wealth reasonably fixed. Now, they also should be involved in the efficiencies of the Board of Education and of the school system. But judging the compelling cases for programs, I don't think that should be in their purview. So how do we judge whether the tax burden is increasing or not is really what they should be thinking about, right? Is the income, is the wealth of town as measured by the median, household wealth, and they don't know that by median household, house prices, some long-term plan of what do we think this town should be taxed going forward, rather than to judge a program. So, I know 2.5%, that's what we've done the last 5 years, but there was also some ups and downs within the last 5 years. And I know they're saying this is how they view it going forward, but, we had an issue with the special ed and all that. So maybe have our wealth increased by 2.5% the last 5 years? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But that's really was the core to my question in my email, whether the process is proper or whether we should think about Board of Education says this is an important program and we would like the town to approve it. Board of Finance, we don't have money for it. Should it come in front of RTM to decide whether one or the other will prevail? I know that's not how we set up, and but anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there as I think about the procedural question before we talk about the priority.
Peter, can I just build on what you just said? Because I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch Tuesday night's Board of Ed meeting when John Zagrodzky and Jim Palin attended. But exactly what you said when he was talking about the 2.5% and new initiatives or programs, and he made the comment that the Board of Ed would need to make the case for any new initiatives or programs to them. That's actually not the Board of Finance's job. The Board of Finance is not there to approve new programs or initiatives for the Board of Ed. They're there to set, the mill rate and, to tell them, stay within this amount. It almost seems as if he wanted line item control, like a backdoor way to line item control on new programs and initiatives. And that's not their purview. So I thought that was interesting on Tuesday night.
And I think it's more than interesting, is worrisome that's what it's being discussed, in a Board of Ed meeting by the Board of Finance. I don't know if this has ever happened before, certainly not since I've been involved, and I find it worrisome.
Do we, sorry, it's Ed, but, and I didn't see the meeting, so apologize if this would be clear to me, but is it possible that they were just maybe poor choice of words and Zagrodzky was really kind of talking about more like, hey, if you want to spend more money, you got to justify it, not to actually say they want to decide it's this program versus that program.
So he basically said, you can watch the first 30 minutes of the meeting, and he said, if it's a program, we make the case for a program or initiative. He actually said, and we would maybe cut that amount if we don't agree with it. So, and then the Board of Ed would then decide where exactly they'll make their cuts. But I mean, he was almost saying, well, if we don't agree with that program, maybe that's the amount we would cut.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of and I don't know if that was what he intended to imply, but that's what he implied. And they have, not this group, but other boards of finance have done that before, where they seem to be aiming for a particular program. And I don't know that they have any specific plans to do that in this case, but they just want to keep to a certain level of tax increase.
Can I just interject? If you are speaking, do you mind putting your video on? Because I don't know everyone yet. So on the bottom, I just see caller 1 and, the Oaxaca family. I don't know who spoke the last.
That was
male.
Clara.
That was me, and I'm having some video problems, so I'll try to fix it.
And it was Ed Wisheka before, but sorry, not equipped for video today.
Fair enough. Okay.
I would just like to add one thing to that.
Okay.
I agree with everything that was just said. It's concerning on many levels, but I also find in such an unusual year where the Board of Ed has had to make huge adjustments to their budget and their planning, to put forth a number that has just been the traditional kind of number, 2.5%, seems extraordinarily arbitrary in a year like this.
Well, not
Especially
to-
when our reserves are so high and we keep building our reserves, which I don't know why, but.
but Curtis,
It's like
not
they're just going back to the old playbook and not considering the different context.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess, Curtis, not to defend the Board of Finance, but there was clearly, and the state of the town as well, was clearly differentiated between the three buckets, right? Business as usual, this is 2.5, and this is why, because we have contractual agreements and that, then 0.5% more if there is something compelling. And then in addition to it, third bucket would be anything COVID related and this weird year kind of thing. So, and listen, I mean, John is an excellent public servant, right? But it's, he's not going to be here next year in his role. There's going to be somebody. The question is, should we have a little different system? But it's more complicated, right? Because then the power would go from Board of Finance to the RTM, and there's different risks with that. But that's the conversation we should sort of be having, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think this is kind of the beginning of the conversation. Does anybody else want to chime in who saw the meeting with John Zagrodzky?
This is Liza. I just want to say that I think it is, like everyone mentioned, I have great appreciation for all the hard work of the Board of Finance, but I think it is dangerous for them to set a precedent that they're going to make programming decisions. I agree that their role should be limited to the budget and not the educational programming choices for the district.
Okay. Does anybody else want to weigh in? This is Clara.
I mean,
Hello?
I would have a question, but more to help me understand as a newbie. So so Sarah and Tara obviously kept hitting on, let me clarify the roles, let's clarify our roles, let's clarify our roles, but no one comes out and says anything like you don't have the purview to judge what program is good. Why is that?
Good question. Do you think we should say that?
I don't know. I'm just asking as a new person, how come someone in that meeting didn't say something immediately? Are they just being diplomatic? What's happening there?
I find that interesting as well, Holly.
Well, I think it's
How
probably because the head of the
how
Board of
that
Finance.
meeting?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Curtis.
I was just going to say, it's probably because John Zagrodzky is perhaps the most respected person in Darien government.
Okay.
And he's a hard person to stand up to if you're on the Board of Ed.
I also think it's the first time that the Board of Finance has been invited to a Board of Ed meeting.
I was curious about that too.
No, it's not. It's an ongoing. It is not the first time.
Oh, it's not. It's the first time in my experience.
No. Years and years they've been invited to. Well, it's a public meeting, so anybody can come. But for many years they have been able to come in and discuss in a nice way what their thoughts are about the budget. It's not a new thing this year.
Oh, okay, because I had something I had not seen before.
But I do appreciate that there was a number put on table, and not only for this year, but also there was a 5-year projection going forward, which, because the planning, we talk annual budgets, but it's really, if we want to have an excellence in education, we need to, and that's what's going to be an outcome of the, of the Dr. Lemon studies. These are longer term programs. So hopefully Dr. Adley will have some leeway to start thinking about hiring or not hiring. So I appreciate it's on table, and that was one thing that was missing, at least to me last year. That's why there was the disagreement during the process.
Okay.
Sarah, can I ask to clarify this early in the process? The Board of Finance has been invited to speak at the Board of Education. For the 4 years I've been involved with this, the first time. I don't know in the past. Yes.
I think, I don't know who invited whom, but I think that they have come in the past to discuss, what their priorities are for the budget, for the mill rate or for the, the budget increase. I don't know that they come every year, but I think it is something they have done. But I think last year's, difficulties were something that everybody would like to avoid this year, and perhaps that was the spirit in which they came in to discuss, what they discussed the other night.
All I can say is that just the visuals weren't great, at least in my opinion, and it felt more like the Board of Finance coming and telling the Board of Education and the administration what to do.
Do you think it would be reasonable for me to send a little email to say that that's what it looked like to us, rather than, you know, I mean, just to let them know in a fairly simple way that it appeared that they were beginning to make program decisions by setting the number of the increase. Would you think that would be a good idea?
Clara, it's Teresa. Maybe not an email. Maybe. Do they have public comment at their meetings? I mean,
I imagine they do. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think in normal circumstances they do, but I don't. I mean, I feel like that's something for public comment, so that it's out there, that we as the RTM Education Committee have said that to them, rather than have it be hidden in an email.
Right.
Clara,
Yeah.
This is Lucy. I don't feel that way. So I don't want to be a part of telling the Board of Finance that we're upset with them or but you guys feel free to do that. The boards are supposed to be working in tandem, getting along, and I don't really see this as a problem. Maybe he had a bad tone or something, but I don't want to be a part of emailing the Board of Finance and saying that I have a problem with the way John Zagrazzi spoke at the Board of Education meeting.
Okay, I think we'll then rule out any email, but maybe look for when the next meeting is and maybe make a statement at a public comment time and
Clara,
say, yeah.
This is Peter Orfanos. May I make it would be appropriate for me to make a comment not being on the committee?
Who are you?
Peter Orfanos.
Oh, Peter. Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, of course. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sure.
Peter, can you just let other members of our committee know exactly who you are, other than Peter Orfanos?
Yes.
You're on here.
No, thank you. I'm on the one of the Board of Education budget co-chairs on the Finance and Budget Committee. Sorry,
Okay.
and Beth Lane and I share that responsibility, which is why I'm tuning in tonight. I believe the correct answer is subject to being corrected, but for the very same reason that when we vote in the springtime in the final budget, we do not have line item authority on the education budget, and neither does the Board of Finance, because it is the education function is state-based, and so that's the reason why my understanding is that we stay away from specific program related issues, because that's the Board of Education's purview and their jurisdiction, and not ours.
That's correct.
I want to say also that, if I may, that it was very helpful that the two boards are communicating. That's not the issue, right? They should be, and it's very helpful that we know what the town finances can bear. It's 2.5% max. Obviously, do the best, show us efficiencies, but 2.5% max, right? And there is some extra for different programs. The issue I was bringing up is the making a clear and compelling case that's going to be judged by Board of Finance. I don't want to repeat the whole story, but you know that's where I was caught up on. But I do agree with Lucy that I think it's very good that they talk, you know, and now everybody knows what the guard lines are. I mean, of course they can have it plus 8% budget, right? This is all we want. We want everything. We want to do the best in the country. We all do want to, right? But do we want to pay 8% higher taxes? Maybe we don't, right? So anyway.
And I don't think anyone was suggesting kind of picking a fight or embarrassing the Board of Finance. I think the point is that they be informed that their comments could be misconstrued.
Okay. Who is that? You? Is that Ed?
That was Curtis.
Oh, Curtis. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. I think that, so I know that Lucy commented that she didn't quite agree with the whole idea of emailing. We're not going to email anybody. We're going to try to look for the next time a public comment is on the agenda at the Board of Finance meeting. Is that something that everyone would agree to, with the caveat that we let them know that not everybody on our committee agreed to do this?
Sure, but as long as there's public comment at Board of Finance meeting, sure. If it's not, then what do we do?
Well, I don't know. I think, I guess if there is no public comment, I guess then we would go back to sending some sort of a letter or email if you all want to do it.
You know, can I just opine here? And I granted, I'm zero in terms of experience in this, but just from an optics point of view, this early on in the whole process to, you know, to alert them that maybe they rubbed you the wrong way or the phrasing needed some work, I'm not sure that's really to our advantage. You know, if there's going to be any acknowledgement, maybe just spinning it in a positive tone that, you know, we appreciate Board of Finance's, you know, approach and eagerness to work with, you know, the Education Committee as we develop the budget, or however you would phrase it. But I think it would not necessarily translate very well if, whether it was through public comment or email or other sources, if we said, you know, I think you need to consider what's within your purview and leave it at that. Even if you phrase it nicely, I'm not sure this early on we want to have that kind of friction. Now, the people I've met so far that are affiliated with all this are very kind, normal, down-to-earth, hardworking people, so I'm sure there would be nothing personal taken from it. That said, I still think we should, it's probably worth treading lightly, especially given that the background is a COVID year. All of us who are parents with kids in the public school system, we have skin in the game, and we want this to proceed as best for our community as possible. So I would almost wonder if it's really worth pushing unless it presents again. It was a comment by a man who's clearly very well respected within the RTMs and the local government. So maybe just give him a pass, and then if it comes up again, address it, because at that point, then yeah, maybe there needs to be some established terms.
Okay. That was Meg, I think, who spoke, but here's Teresa. So the only problem I have with that is this idea of creating friction. I don't think it's creating friction, and I don't like. This happened a little bit last year, where some Board of Ed member said this, where we don't want to anger the Board of Finance. I have a problem with that terminology of if we disagree with them in some way, are they going to screw the town over? I think it's fair for us to have a dialogue with them and say, hey, you know, when we heard you say this, this is kind of how it came across. It's not necessarily criticizing them, but letting them know how others have been interpreting what they've said. And I think that's fair. We are an equal political body to them. We are not below them. We are equal.
Right. Well, they're going to be watching this meeting and hearing about this meeting, so they'll know.
So,
which is a good thing. I agree with you, Teresa. I don't like that kind of talk either. I agree.
What if we just ask for clarification instead of telling them how it made us feel? Why don't we just say, what did you mean by that comment? We're just looking for a little more clarification on that. And that way, you know, that way they know that they've piqued our interest, but we're not going to piss them off really quick, you know?
Lucy said something important, right? Which is, this is a public meeting we're having right now, so you know.
Yeah, they can hear they can tune in.
Think about a forum, how to translate the message to them, that they can they're hearing it, right? And I think I agree that it's educational for everybody to understand the hierarchy, to understand who makes these decisions, and then we can figure out who should be really making these decisions, right? Which is the next step.
Okay.
We're done with the process.
Okay, so I'm hearing that it might be a good idea to tread lightly, and that making our concerns into a question might be a better approach. Is that something that would be a good idea?
I think
I think, yeah, go on.
I think
Go
it's
on,
much
Ann.
ado about nothing.
No, look, I think maybe it's a middle path between, you know, two views on this committee. And it is, you know, it's a gentler way to do it, Clara. And really, we are actually looking for more of an explanation as to what they meant. So I think it's real too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I will look for when the next meeting is of the Board of Finance, and certainly, you know,
19th. Huh? It's the 19th of January.
It's not until the 19th of January, so that's more than a month away.
Right.
Okay, all right. Well, we certainly have a lot of time to think about it between now and then. Okay, do you want to leave this item now, or do you want to say more? What do you say? Is silence, does that mean we've pretty much covered this?
I think we can move forward.
Okay, all right. All right, so is there anything about coming up in the budget, just in terms of this committee, that you would like to make sure we pay a special attention to on that Saturday in January? I know we've pretty much spent a lot of time on athletics. Is there any other kind of general area that people, especially people who have younger children, would like to make sure that we are involved in questioning? I mean, I know remote education is a big deal. Is there anything that you all would like to make sure that we're paying special attention to?
It's not so much a special attention to something new, but this may be too late. I've asked it before, but I find the presentation in the board books terrible, and not all that helpful to evaluating this as you would basically almost evaluating any other budget you might be looking at. So I think when I raised it before, it's been, oh, we have a new superintendent. That seems to always be the excuse. I can't believe that the people there actually find it all that useful, but I don't know. That's just something I would think on the way they do the presentation. It just leaves something to be desired.
Are you saying you don't think the narrative that precedes the budget part of the book?
We went through this last year. Look at how all these other districts are doing it. Look at this, look at that, and they still keep talking about like this RC this, and it's just piles and piles of Excel spreadsheets. It's to me, it seems like they should be pushing out to the department heads who write these budgets. This is the template you should use. And instead, what we get is someone who writes like 2 lines and someone who writes 2 sentences. Obviously, some of the people do a pretty good job of presenting what it is they're asking for, but I just think it's maybe I'm the only person who finds it lacking, but I'm just surprised this is not so obvious to the Board of Ed itself.
No, I'm with you, Ed. This was a conversation with us all last year. I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree too. I think it's just like they've gotten used to it, and nobody's bothered to make it better. Yeah.
To me, the 3 priorities that I'll judge the budget from is safety, efficiency, and educational excellence. Right? We have today, we have 8th anniversary of the terrible event, 35 miles away from here. So we always discuss the safety, and I realize that limitation of shared in public forum, but I just need to somehow get more comfortable. I'm not saying it's that Saturday in January, but there needs to be more just trust us. So that's number 1. Efficiency, I do have set up facing activities, whether it's care of the facilities, cost that's not student facing. I want to suggest, and I've suggested it to John last year, is whether we want to have some kind of subcommittee on efficiency between the administration, Board of Finance, Board of Education, and maybe even the FMB committee and us, where the administration would defend what are the contracts. It always comes up, and we question how many gallons we spend and all that, and these wonder whether it would be more focused, whether there could be a subcommittee that focuses on it, and so it does it throughout the year. And the third thing that also is the educational excellence, right? How the spending on these programs leads to the measurable outcomes that we are trying to achieve for our kids, right? And I say measurable because with some of this stuff that Mr. Dini put in his speech, and there are worthy goals. Some of it I was just like, how do we know that the administration is doing a good job? Providing instructional materials for mathematics. It's helpful. That probably shouldn't be our goal. That's just it's immediate steps to achieve something, right? So link the spending to outcomes, efficiency back office, and safety are the three topics that I will sort of.
I mean, I think you're making a really valid point, Person Peter. Because, you know, if you look at just like the census of Darien, over 80% of our population is college educated. So I do find, like, not to make this a personal anecdote, but, you know, my husband and I moved to Darien in 2010 strictly for the school. So I think over time, you know, you had that initial complex of people who did really well, the schools were really well established, you had, you know, fantastic, you know, stats in terms of how the kids are doing in school, and over time, the reputation grows, people come here and perpetuate that phenomenal reputation. So this town is really a large part of self-selection, really. So to your point, you know, having that kind of measurable outcome, that really does equate the administration with, you know, how well our students are doing, you know, with a backdrop of the fact that, you know, most of us really value education in the house, which may not necessarily be a factor in neighboring cities in Fairfield County. So, you know, I agree. I think that's a fantastic question. That should be one that is certainly raised.
Right. We also have the administrator's contract in front of us, right? So some way to judge whether they're doing a good job, you know, looking back every couple of years would probably be helpful.
I'm sure we'll be hearing about the administrator's contract in January.
By the way, Mac, just so I state, I think all the towns try to do the same thing, right? You know, and self-selected or not, you know, we all think our respective towns are the best.
We talked a little bit last year about having a buddy system in which we could pair up with someone on the Board of Ed to learn more about what they're doing. The F&B committee does this. They seem to like it. There wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for this last year, but I don't know, perhaps there would be more this year. We have some new people. Would you like me to try to pursue that?
Do the newbies come across as really eager, Clara?
What?
Do we come off as really eager, the newbies? Bunch of tryhards?
Well, no, not necessarily. No, I just know that last year there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm for it. Maybe we decided to talk about it late in the process. But, you know, that is a way that you could get more into the deep end of what what's going on and whether there are measurable outcomes. I mean, we did ask this question last year, and we were told about the strategic plan. We were told about various, you know, test results, that sort of thing. They seem to be perhaps more pat answers as opposed to something that links directly between how much, you know, how well the test scores are and how much time is being spent in various activities. This would be a very hard year to do anything like that comparison because of COVID and all the different ways of learning. I don't know that this would be a good year for it, but, you know, there might be ways that we could learn more about what's going on and find more confidence in how that the money is being spent well. So I would, you know, we don't have to decide tonight, but I would be willing to pursue putting us together with some sort of a buddy system like I know Peter Alfanos could probably talk a little bit about this because the F&B committee does have a sort of a buddy system, and that group seems to like it a lot.
Are you putting me on the spot here?
No. I just thought, you know, we could, since you're here, you know, if you want to say anything about it, it might be useful.
I just think it's the type of communication that it works well, and I think everybody on our committee, Beth Lane, my co-chair, who does a boatload of work on this, and I and others that have the same roles with other committees, it's been successful in to basically avoid surprises, and that's really the goal of it, and to understand what other people are thinking about in terms of their point of view on the budget, and other issues in general. In addition to the budget, I think it serves a very sound function.
Do we ever? Like,
What-
sorry, would we invite a Board of Ed? I mean, I think I see Sarah on the call, but would we invite a Board of Ed member to come and we could just kind of pepper them with questions? Does that ever happen?
We do that, yes, in January and maybe early February. When we send them the questions, they come and they discuss with us what
Okay.
their response. So the chairman comes, some other people come. Also, it's not unusual for them to tune into a meeting or to, certainly they're going to be a part of the discussion about the administrator contract that's going to come to us after the first of the year. So there's a good bit of interaction, you know, in general, I mean, without being part of a buddy system. But if you wanted to do something that's a little more intense, we could pursue the buddy system. You could pursue it with the Board of Finance. It doesn't have to be with the Board of Ed. We could see, you know, maybe to find out more about how they think and maybe why they come forward with comments like they did. Maybe we could have more of a buddy system with them if you think that would be helpful.
I think it's an interesting idea.
Okay. I'm sorry. Who is this? I can't see.
Sorry, that's Holly.
Oh, Holly. Okay. Sure. Okay. Well, if any of the others of you want to weigh in on this, I certainly would be happy to pursue it. You know, it might be a type of communication that we can participate in and might also help with a sort of more of a collaborative approach to the budget. Okay. Is everybody finished with this item, or do we want to talk about additionally about a buddy system or anything else? Okay, I'm gonna say everybody's finished with this. Can we consider the next item on the agenda? Funnily enough, some committees are able to provide tech support from someone in the meeting on the committee who can help run or facilitate the meeting. We've been very fortunate that Cecil Wade has helped us so much. I would like him to stay forever. I don't know whether he is able to do that, but I did reach out to Jack Davis today to see if they, you know, are using a professional helper or whether they are having somebody from within the committee. And I think he said that they're going to use a professional help. Would anybody like to comment on this?
Is this the platform that has to be used for these meetings as opposed to Zoom, I would say?
Cecil, do you know the answer to that?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Yes?
I think all town business has to be done with this. I have so many different platforms on my thing between different things, but I think this one is the one for all town meetings for RTM stuff.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure that's true, Teresa. And the reason I say that is I know for a fact that a few sewer commission meetings have been done on Zoom. This product is the official choice of the town of Darien. And it's not that much harder to use than Zoom. Here's another thing that may be worth knowing. I am scheduled to start training 4 additional TV 79 people on Wednesday to be able to conduct these meetings as well. I think ideally, if you can have somebody from your own committee do manage the meetings, that's a plus, I think, all around. But if nobody feels comfortable with it, I do believe TV 79 stands ready to cover meetings.
Well, Cecil, Cecil, it's Ann. Could you teach me how to do it?
I can probably give it a try.
Because I'm willing to do it if you can teach me to do it.
You know, let's not talk about it here. Let's talk about it online. The biggest problem, I'll be honest with you, is figuring out where the feedback is coming from and getting rid of it.
Okay, I guess I would just be I would be cautious just because if the person from the committee is running the meeting, you know, from the technological point of view, does that mean he or she would have less opportunity to participate in the meeting? And I guess that's, you know, that's the thing that is of the biggest concern to me. Well, it's great to have somebody available. Does the person give up, you know, being able to participate in the discussion? So,
so Clara, I run a lot of Zoom businesses meetings for my office and my business, and I don't find that being an issue.
Okay.
So I'm host of plenty of those, so I'm more than happy to help as well.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well,
You got two volunteers.
That sounds great. If you want to pursue, Carolina, you do Zoom meetings, so I don't know, do you do the other, go to webinar too, or just Zoom meetings?
No, but I'm sure I can learn.
Okay. Well, that's great.
I'm a tech savvy person in my 50-year-olds of life. I
More
do
than me.
very well with technology. so I
She can
help.
set up a social media page for the RTM Education Committee too.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll look for. You should be at my house tonight because I still can't get the picture running. Anyway. Okay. Well, if Anne wants to meet up with Cecil and pursue this, and Carolina wants to do that, that would be very helpful. I'm still feeling, I think that would be great backup. I don't know. The next time we meet, we'll have to see. I guess the next time will be that Saturday meeting with the Board of Ed. So we'll have to see how that works. But I really appreciate that you volunteers who came forward. And we will be talking about it again after you meet with Cecil. Okay, anything else here about tech support for future meetings? Doesn't sound like it. The only other thing we have on the agenda is that I did put together a calendar of meetings of this committee, which I sent to everybody. There are a couple conflicts with the Rules Committee, particularly the next January meeting. There's only one night after the Saturday Board of Ed meeting that we can meet before we're supposed to have questions ready for the Board of Ed. So I didn't really have a choice other than to take that Monday meeting. That was the same day as the Rules Committee. So I don't know if the Rules Committee is definitely meeting then, but I know everybody on this committee wanted to meet on the same day, and you all mentioned a Monday as the preferred date, or the preferred day of the week. So if we need to make any adjustments, I'd be happy to do that. But that one Monday, January 12th or 11th, I don't think we can change that one. Any comments?
So Clara, do you think that's almost too soon after? I mean, if you just because I know it's a long day and not everybody watches the meeting that weekend, not everybody watches it live, or do you think it's too soon? Do you think for that one time we can do it a little bit later in the week, maybe? I don't know. I am on rules, so I'd probably have to find a way to toggle between one and the other.
But I think that the point is that the Board of Ed wants to meet with us on that Tuesday. So I would have to see if they would be willing to change that, which is not a terrible idea. I think that they want to meet with us, later on, early in that week, which is, it is actually January 12th. So, I don't know if they'd be willing to change that because that would sort of have an impact on a lot of other meetings. So, I will see. Okay. Any other comments or concerns about any of the other dates on the schedule?
Hi, this is Holly. I don't know if you need to know this now, but there's two that I know for sure I can't make. I don't know how that affects. I don't know if that would change anything. Just wanted to throw that out.
Is it a vacation, like a school? Have I conflicted with school vacations or something like that?
It is. One is I'm going to be out of the country on my own vacation, but not a school vacation.
Okay.
Yeah. So it has nothing to do with school. No.
Okay. Well, sometimes people can't come. It happens. It's somebody's birthday or.
Okay. Cool.
But if it's an issue for a lot of people, I would change it. But as I said, we'd have to find another. These are the Mondays that I think we could fit this in based on trying to avoid various other things. Okay. Any other comments about the calendar?
Okay. My next question was just curious about how stuck we are in 7 p.m. as opposed to something a little later.
You would like to meet later?
I'm just asking if how the group feels about that. It's just with a young trouble at 7 dinner.
This is Liza. I'm actually getting ready to jump because I have 8 o'clock meetings every Monday. So if we start at 8, I'm going to be boxed out. But
okay, so no worries.
So
I'll make it work.
Okay. I don't know. 7:30, I guess, might be a compromise. I know people don't like it earlier because some people are not finished working, at 6:30 or so. So that's why I picked 7. But we can certainly make adjustments to this within the, as the year goes along, and we may have other meetings too. So it really just depends on what's going on and what the committee is asked to report on. if you, I guess you like, I could try 7:30. Liza, would that work for you?
No, that's okay. I was hoping if there was a majority that wanted to change it. If there's not, I'm fine with 7. I can work it out.
We'll
7's easier.
Okay, we'll keep it at 7. But I'm willing to make changes or try to make adjustments. And I assume we're going to all be remote for quite a long time. So, if we ever meet in person, that might make a difference. Is there any other business that anybody thinks that we would like to discuss tonight? Okay, hearing none, I would call for a motion to adjourn. It is 7:55. Motion to adjourn. Are you getting that?
Sorry, I didn't, who actually put in the motion? Was it Ann?
A motion, and I think Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Ann seconded?
The other way.
And first, me second.
Carolina seconded. Okay, all those in favor, I think that's unanimous. Okay. Have a wonderful holiday season, and everybody stay well. We will be in touch. Thanks a lot. Good night.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.